All right, everybody seems to want to be talking about Israel today in Bible prophecy, the role of Israel. So here's a whole bunch of videos here. The truth about Israel in the Bible. Is Ezekiel's prophecy in Ezekiel 38:39 the Gog and Magog war? Is that prophecy coming to life? The truth behind today's Middle East conflict. Defeat of the Russian alliance. They think that Russia has something to do with the Gog and Magog war of Ezekiel 38 and 39, but Revelation chapter 20 tells us that the Gog and Magog war does not happen until after the millennium or at the end of the millennium. So here's Dr. Michael Vlach, and dispensational futurist. And he lays it out nicely, at least the dispensational futurist perspective. And right here, he says there's a distinction between Israel and the church. So a distinction between Israel and the church. But Revelation chapter 12 clears this all up very nicely. A great sign appeared in heaven. This woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. This woman is Israel, represents Israel, also known as the church of the Old Testament. Here's Genesis 37, Joseph's dream, from whence, the second dream of Joseph here, verses 9 through 11, from whence this imagery of this woman clothed with the sun, standing on the moon with the crown of 12 stars on her head. Here it's 11 because Joseph would be the 12th star. But that's where this imagery is taken from in Revelation chapter 12. This woman is Israel, the church of the Old Testament, and she brings forth the male child, okay, one who is to rule all the nations with the rod of iron. Clearly, this is the Messiah. So the woman who brought forth the Messiah was not Mary. The papists will claim that this is Mary. And you say, well, why do you think that this is a literal woman? Because it says it's a literal woman who's literal pregnant and crying out in literal birth pains and the agony of literally giving birth. And you go, yeah, but is she literally clothed with the literal sun, with the literal moon under her literal feet, and on her literal head a crown of literally 12 stars? No, of course not. This is symbolism right here. It says, and a great sign appeared in heaven. A sign. This indicates that it's a heavenly vision, and the heavenly visions are always symbolic. They're always symbolism. There's four great beasts rising up out of the sea in Daniel chapter 7. Those aren't literal beasts that rose up out of the literal sea. They were empires that arose out of densely populated areas. This woman is Israel. And she gave birth to the Messiah, and her child, the Messiah, was raptured, harpazoed up to God and to his throne. But the woman fled into the wilderness, where she is to be nourished for 1,260 literal years. When did that 1,260 literal years start? This is Jonathan Edwards' History of the Work of Redemption, Part 3, The Success of Redemption, from the Rise of Antichrist to the Reformation. To the Reformation. The rise of Antichrist was before the Reformation, according to Jonathan Edwards, and he is correct. It actually rose sometime after the fall of the Roman Empire, the time when the reign of Antichrist began, that 1,260 days, same time as this, the woman fleeing into the wilderness for 1,260 days. Here he says, like the woman in the wilderness, Revelation 12, she was almost hid from sight and observation from the fall of the Roman Empire to the Reformation. And so that 1,260 days right here, it is certain that the 1,260 days or years, did not begin before the year of Christ 479 or before the fall of the Roman Empire. So Daniel 7 lays it out like this. You have four beasts that rise up out of the sea. And we're going to see the Antichrist is the little horn here. The four beasts are the Babylonian, followed by the Medo-Persian, followed by the Grecian Empire, followed by the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire doesn't come to its end until the 5th century A.D. The 10 horns that arose out of the fourth beast symbolize the 10 lesser tribal nations or vassal kingdoms that made up the Roman Empire after its fall. 3 of these would be plucked up by the roots, according to Daniel 7, before the little horn could arise. Here's Dr. John Gill's commentary, writing in about the 18th century. 10 kingdoms which sprung out of the Roman Empire, these 10 horns, after the dissolution of the Roman Empire in about AD 476. He gives Mede's list. He gives Sir Isaac Newton's list, very similar to my own, both of those. But Daniel wanted to know the truth about the fourth beast and about the 10 horns and the other horn that came up, before which 3 of them fell, because this little horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them. This little horn is the Antichrist. Little horn is the Antichrist. 3 of the 10 horns would have to be plucked up by the roots first before the little horn could rise to power. And those were the Heruli, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths. And then you have the rise of the little horn, the Bishop of Rome, gaining more and more power through the code of Justinian, wherein Justinian said the Bishop of Rome is the head of all the holy churches and also the head of all the holy priests of God. It was only after, it's dated to 533 AD, but it was only after 538 with the defeat of the Ostrogoths, who had taken over Rome, that the royal edict from Justinian, the Eastern emperor, could take effect. So the little horn had come to his seat in great authority. After this, the Bishop of Rome's power would only continue to grow, again for 1260 literal years, 1260 years, at which point, after that, it was dealt a deadly wound at the hands of Napoleon and the new French Republic. 1796, French troops under the command of General Bonaparte invaded Italy, defeated the papal army, and occupied Ancona and Loreto, etc. Later, General Louis-Alexandre Berthier marched to Rome and entered it unopposed in 1798, proclaiming a Roman Republic, demanded the Pope renounce his temporal power. Very important. Jonathan Edwards said about the Antichrist, especially the Bishop of Rome assumed more and more authority to himself. After that, he claimed power of a temporal prince, so was wont to carry 2 swords to signify that both the temporal and spiritual sword were both his. Now they carry the 2 keys instead of the 2 swords, papal Rome. But that deadly wound has been healing ever since. He claimed the power to crown princes and to degrade them at his pleasure. Excommunication by a pope, then all that prince's subjects or that king's subjects were at once freed from their allegiance to their own king and obliged not to own him anymore. The pope was believed to have power to damn men at pleasure, so that they were looked upon as certainly damned. If you placed that state or kingdom under an interdict, which was a sentence pronounced by the pope against that state or kingdom whereby all sacred administrations could have no validity until that interdict was taken off, so that in their apprehension, this is how the Antichrist made war with the saints and prevailed over them. They looked upon themselves, excommunicated, they looked upon themselves as damned in their apprehension, with all the false theology and false doctrine of the papal Rome. That's how the Antichrist made war with the saints and prevailed over them. As the Pope and his clergy robbed the people of their ecclesiastical and civil liberties and privileges, so they also robbed them of their estates and drained all Christendom of their money. They engrossed most of their riches into their own coffers. Think about the papists were the original, prosperity preachers, to be honest with you. 100 other things. See how well this agrees with the prophecies of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the man of sin, son of perdition. Daniel 7, the little horn. Revelation 13, 1 through 10, the sea beast. Revelation 17, the scarlet harlot. That's what Jonathan Edwards says. These are all talking about the same entity, the Antichrist. So, if we talk about Israel, this is Israel, woman clothed with the sun, bringing forth the Messiah. The woman who flees into the wilderness, same woman, not a different woman, for 1260 literal years during papal persecution, during the Middle Ages, the medieval period, or what we used to call the Dark Ages. And the papacy has been healing that deadly wound ever since, and will continue in power all the way up until the Second Advent. So Israel and the church, not a difficult question to answer if you just understand what Revelation chapter 12 is talking about. It clears up a lot of this confusion with dispensational futurism. And it's futurism. See, he says futurism right here. That is a Jesuit construct. Futurism was a Jesuit counter-Reformation teaching over and against what Jonathan Edwards and people like him were teaching. 1260 literal years of Antichrist reign did not begin till after the fall of the Roman Empire. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Talk to you soon. Soli Deo Gloria.